guys, welcome to Capital Edge Midweek. This is our 5th episode. I just want to thank you for joining in today. Before introducing our discussion, I want to talk to you about our Connect groups, because many of our Connect groups have been meeting this week live without having to do the Zoom or the WhatsApp because of the restrictions easing a little. And just want to encourage you to keep going along to Connect group. We had a group here on Monday night. There was about 16 people, I think, here, all equally distanced and obeying all the rules and regulations. But they told me they had a great time. And one of the things they highlighted in particular was just being able to worship the Lord together live, being able to sing songs of worship. And so can I encourage you, if you don't go to a Connect group and you would like to, give us a call here at Capital Edge, ask for Pastor Rodney, and we will put you onto the right Connect group for you. Well, on our discussion panel today, we have some guests here. Next to me, I've got Meg Peterson, of course, our youth pastor. Hi, Meg.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hey, why don't you just tell us give us a quick update on how youth is going at the moment?
Yeah, it's been going well. We're getting somewhere between 60 and 70 kids tuning in every week, and we kind of we pastorally monitor that by our Zoom calls at the end of the episode. So usually we do an episode that we film midweek with some fun stuff, a message, some worship, and then we always do our Zoom call afterwards so that we're actually interacting with kids still, which is great. Right. So yeah, it's going really well. Fantastic.
We're looking forward to the day not too far away when they can come back, probably mid-July we're talking about.
Yeah, so. Term 3 some stage.
Great. Also on the panel we've got Pastor Alan Davis. Many of you will know Alan. Hi Alan, how are you?
I'm great, thanks mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good. I hear you've got some great news for us.
Yes, I'm a grandfather.
That's awesome. Yeah. So Charlotte had little Bubba? Had a
little baby, Spencer Alan James.
Fantastic.
Born on 28th of May and looking really well. And it's a new experience. And I'm trying not to be too clucky, but it's a good positive feeling.
Great. Alan showed me a photo this morning, and so I've already seen the little fella, so that's fantastic. Yeah. For those of you that have not caught up on the news, it just so happens that Edie and I are going to be grandparents as well.
Yes.
Grace and Joel are having a little one November sometime, I think it is, which is fantastic. Also on our panel today, we've got Mr. John Mann. So, John, hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
That's good. And I hear you've got good news too, not necessarily about being a grandparent, but I think you were saying you've moved house.
No, haven't moved. We're moving next week.
Oh, okay.
We've bought a house, or it's a townhouse in Gowrie, to downsize a little bit from 4 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms. It's quite a lot smaller. And we're having a lot of fun. Trying to downsize, trying to declutter, trying to work out what stuff we should keep and what stuff we should get rid of, what stuff should go across to the new house, and having a lot of fun. But it's a difficult thing to downsize from quite a large home to a smaller one, and work out what's really important to you, what to take. Alan and I were talking before over coffee about sort of all the things you collect when you're going overseas, and or you visit places, you bring things back. How important are they to you? Should we keep them? Or should we get rid of them, give them to the family, or just offload them somewhere? But it's been a bit of fun. But we move next week into the new house.
You guys have been in that house
31 years.
Wow, that's a long time to collect stuff.
It is, and we've collected a lot, John.
So you've gotten rid of all your Richmond memorabilia?
No, all the Richmond memorabilia. Yeah, I've actually got rid of some of it because I can't take all. And my grandsons will think it's fantastic because I've actually handed on some to them. So that's good. Thanks very much, John, for that. I've had plenty of people in the church offer to get rid of it for me.
Yeah, I'm one of them. So. Very good. Well, our topic for this month, as you know, as a church, is faithfulness really matters. And so the question that we thought we'd talk about today on the panel is this: what is faithfulness to you, and how do you see it demonstrated in people's lives? So what is faithfulness to you, and how do you see it demonstrated in people's lives? I thought we could perhaps go to you first, Alan, and how would you answer such a question?
When I think of faithfulness, I'm reminded, the Bible says God's faithful to us. His mercies are new every morning. And the Bible is full of those kinds of exhortations. what's easy to forget is that those words are right in the middle of a series of lamentations.
Yeah.
So faithfulness and recognizing God's presence, God's goodness, and God's constancy in our lives isn't a denial of some very real issues that we go through. But he says, even in the midst of all of that, and let's call them for what they are, but in the midst of all of that, step back and say, God, you're still faithful. God, you're still there. And a good friend of mine planted a number of churches, and I remember him saying to me once, Alan, it's not how steep the road is, it's how long the road is.
Yep.
And with us in our being faithful in our Christian lives and faithful in our relationships and recognizing God's faithfulness in our lives, it's not the mountaintop experience, it's not the today experience, it's over time being able to look back and say, God's faithful to us, we're faithful to one another. And so it's the continuity of the relationship that deepens as time goes on.
Yeah, I think that longevity is so important, isn't it? I remember Danny Guglielmucci used to say, faithfulness is long-term obedience in the same direction, in the right direction. And so that's so important. Meg, what would you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think, I guess in line with that, I think it's a strong conviction towards something that allows you to make that long-term commitment and be prepared for sacrifice.
Yeah.
If not, it's not faithfulness. So like as Alan was talking about with the example of Jesus himself, like it was his conviction of love towards us that caused him to be faithful to us, and to the extent of making the commitment and the sacrifice to go to the cross as part of his faithfulness to us for a long-term and eternal, effect for us.
Yeah.
And so I think that faithfulness is when we share in that conviction for God first and foremost, and for other people, and I'm sure for every person there's other things that require faithfulness in our lives. But it's that conviction to be able to commit to that long road ahead, as we've talked about.
Who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. So for the joy that was set before him remained faithful.
Yeah.
You know, and so he couldn't see the joy at that point in time, but he knew that there was joy ahead of the crisis, joy ahead of the cross. And I think that's an important message for what we're going through at the moment, because this is a crisis, but it will pass. And there's joy on the other side of this, and there's reward, and there's blessing, and there's all sorts of, as long as we remain faithful. So important. John, what do you think?
Well, we're talking about missions today, John, and I see faithfulness to the call on people's lives. We've visited most of our missionaries that we support, and I've visited them, all of them actually, and just the faithfulness they have to that call that God's called them to go somewhere, to go to the Kimberley, to go to Sri Lanka, to go to Vietnam, to go to wherever, Uruguay, but and they're really committed. And that faithfulness to that call, it really blows me away sometimes. Particularly, I think sometimes when people go and get called to the missions, for the first few months, years, it can be frustrating. But they're faithful to that call. That God called them there, and they know that, they're convinced that, they believe that. So they hang in there, and eventually things start moving, start working. And Warren Luscombe at Fitzroy Crossing is a classic example of that. He's talked to us about that a lot, about how for a number of years all he did was build relationships, and so but that was a faithfulness to his call. He didn't give up. He was faithful to that call and stayed, and that blows me away at times.
Yeah, I know, John, you've been to the Kimberley numerous times, and I've been with you twice, and. So you've obviously had a heartfelt passion for a long, long time to support Indigenous mission.
Correct.
So how did all that come about?
Well, it came about, John, because I actually worked in Indigenous work with what was called the Methodist Overseas Missions, now the Uniting Church, from 1970 to 1982, the end of 82. So for nearly 13 years, I was up there working in Arnhem Land, in Darwin, working in the Kimberley. I visited a lot of the communities that we now support in Kimberley as an accountant, because I was an accountant. I still am an accountant, but I was doing accounting work up there then. So that really gripped me. I went there not as a Christian, but I went there really believing that I could add value to what was happening up there.
Right.
And I really love working with Aboriginal people. They're a lot of fun. They're just great people to work with, and I enjoyed that. So I enjoyed that, and when I had the opportunity down here, after many years of not being involved in Aboriginal ministries, to be involved with the AAUM,
Yep.
Then
What does AAOM stand for?
Australian Aboriginal Outreach Ministries,
Yep.
which look after Aboriginal or Indigenous churches throughout Australia, mainly up in the north, maybe Kimberley, across to Carnarvon. There's one in Carnarvon, across up to the north of Queensland, down into Sydney. We have churches all around, and AAOM supports those Indigenous churches. So I love being involved. I'm their treasurer, and their administrator. They call me the administrator, and I'm on their board. So I enjoy it. So I've kept up that connection with Indigenous, with the Aboriginal work for the last about 8 years now.
So you lived in Darwin.
I lived in a place called Elcho Island in Arnhem Land, and then I lived at Croker Island. I was at Elcho for 3 years, 2 years at Croker Island, and then 8 years in Darwin.
Wow. And I know that John has actually shown me a photo of him back in the day when he played footy, and it's amazing seeing this football team in their Richmond jumpers, but there's one white face in the whole lot, and that's John.
Yeah,
and
that's me.
so obviously there's been a passion in your life for many years.
It has, and I really enjoy sort of being involved again.
Yeah, great. Well, we actually have a clip to show you now. We've had 3 of our AAOM missionaries send us some information, some thank yous. So why don't you guys have a look at that clip right now?
Hi John and Edie and everybody at Capital Edge Church. Well, this season of COVID-19 has definitely been a challenging one for a lot of people and churches. It's had a real effect on people's mental health as well, with all the isolation and not being able to spend time with other people and have fellowship and all those things that we're so used to, we sometimes even take for granted. But at this time of social restrictions, it's caused other people in churches to do things a little bit different, which has been great. For us in Australian Aboriginal Outreach Ministries, for our ministers, it's been a great time of rest. For a lot of them, they hold 3 or 4 meetings a week. They've got prayer meetings as well, band practices and all those things in order to keep church flowing along. And for them, it is really, over a period of time, it starts to cause them to be tired, as you can understand. Justine and I are just so blessed to have your church partnering with us in the ministry. We very much see it that way. With your prayers and support, we're able to do what God's called us to do. And through this last season for us, it's been quite challenging, but we thank God we're coming out the other side of it, and we're looking forward to the future and what God has for us. But we just want to thank you for your prayers. We want to thank you for your support and for partnering with us in the ministry. God bless you all.
And this is the last tool. This is circular saw. So that's all the tools that have been supplied.
I just want to say thank you to Pastor John and Capital Edge Church, to Scotty Hall and all those that helped organise these tools for the work in the Kimberley. It's going to make my life a lot easier as I travel and have to do maintenance work, and it is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Hello Capital Edge, Brett and Val Durant from Kununurra here, and it's great to be able to share with you today. You know, church life for us has been different in this season of COVID, and we've taken to doing church via a USB, and some of our people don't have internet or devices, but most have TVs, so that takes a USB stick. So we were able to film ourselves, do a church service, and download other content from YouTube, etc. And then because many of our people don't have cars, we deliver the USBs and pick them up again the following week, and so on, just keep repeating that. So our mob is still getting regular ministry, and we get to touch base with them every week, and that's really great, get to pray with them, etc. As restrictions lift slightly and things are moving slowly here, but because of the health vulnerability amongst the Aboriginal population, but we will begin to meet at people's houses and have sing-alongs and share a short word maybe in their backyard around a fire or something like that of the evenings.
We'd like to pass on a big thank you for the partnership that we have with Capital Edge Church, and for the support that you give to us and the other AAOM churches across the Kimberley. Thank you for your prayers, your finance and your visits, and we'd like to extend an invitation to you when travel starts again. Maybe come up and see us, come and visit, have a short-term missions trip. You'll get to see what missions is like right here in Australia. You'll be amazed by the rugged beauty of the Kimberley and its people, and you will be a blessing just by coming. Thank you, and God bless.
God bless.
I know, Meg, you had the opportunity to go with our team about 3 years ago to Hanoi, Vietnam.
Yeah.
And you met up with Michael and Rhiannon Walls and Nana.
Yeah.
You met her for the first time. So how did you find that, and what struck you about the people there in Vietnam?
Yeah, so that for me, I was still in uni finishing my degree. It was the first time I had ever really been outside Australia. So it was a big learning thing for me, and a real appreciation for other cultures in general, but especially for our missionaries in those areas. And I think we were there for about 2 weeks, but over there you think about what it would be like to uproot, you know, your whole life in Australia and move to a country like that, and just that adjustment would be such a massive thing, let alone the work that they're doing there. So Michael and Rhiannon have been there for a while now, and they've developed a whole team of people around them. And like you said, with Nana, who Vietnam is her home, and she you know, they didn't, obviously, in that country, they couldn't get up on a soapbox or preach on street corners and do that kind of thing, which I think sometimes we think is what missions can be like.
Yeah.
But they just took every opportunity to connect with people and the people around them and the locals, and they started teaching English, and they started just connecting with people on the streets. And so Nana was one of the people that was obviously impacted by Michael and Rhiannon, and so she's on their team now, and they're teaching English. They've started up a motor shop fixing motorbikes and things. Yep. Obviously, that's what everyone's using for transport
so
over
many
there.
scooters and motorbikes, and it's a scary place to drive, isn't it?
Very, yeah. Talking about that adjustment, like just crossing the street would take me a good year or two to get used to. But
absolutely.
Yeah, so just everyday things that they've used to just connect with people in that country and just love them and serve them, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I think there's a good message in that too, is that faithfulness involves just using what you got.
Yeah.
You know, and in places like Hanoi, you can't get out, and it's a communist country, so you can't get out and openly preach the gospel, as you said, but you can use your ability to be able to fix a motorbike.
Yeah.
You can use your ability to be able to teach English and those sorts of things to be able to, that's being faithful.
Yeah.
So, that's fantastic. Now, Alan, I know that you have travelled extensively. How many countries have you been to now?
126, but don't tell anyone.
126 countries. That's amazing. So you've travelled extensively, but why don't you tell us a little bit about Sri Lanka and what we support in Sri Lanka and the faithfulness of the missionaries there. And also recently you went to Myanmar.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. And I just picking up something you said a minute ago, I think it's, it's being faithful to what we are given.
Yep.
A lot of people say, if only I had this or that, and if maybe, perhaps, and qualify it and never get involved.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think faithfulness is recognizing that wherever we are, this is where I'm serving God. Yep. With what I've got, what I've got in my hand, that's the opportunity that I have, and I'm going to do it.
Absolutely.
And God wires us differently and equips us differently. So I've had the privilege of visiting Sri Lanka a number of times now. A couple of highlights. I spent some time on each visit in a children's home just outside Kandy, and our church heavily supports them financially.
It's Havens.
Haven Girls Home.
Yep.
And it's really great to go in and see the work that they're doing with girls who really have nowhere else to live, sending them off to school every day, supporting them, providing a secure place for them to live. And just to see the impact on their lives. I was there 2 months ago, and up on the wall are photographs of some of the people from our church who were there a couple of years ago.
That's great.
And, so they're asking how's so-and-so going, because that's the investment that we've had in the lives of all those girls as they're growing up, and the church that is attached to that work. Just down the road in Candy, we've been supporting some students in Lanka Bible College.
Great.
I was over there recently. I had to leave early because the country was shutting down.
Yeah.
But we support a couple of students there, and we're talking about young men and women who are coming from very difficult rural circumstances. They don't have much behind them financially, and they're making a decision to go into ministry, knowing that they probably won't work in a secular job, and so for them, faithfulness is going to Bible college, going out, being involved in ministry, and being poor, and serving God, and knowing that that's the call to Christian ministry.
Yeah.
And for some, Meg, you mentioned sacrifice. I was in Jaffna a couple of years ago, and we had a friend from Australia came to visit us here in Canberra on a number of occasions. Rohan Dissanayake married a girl from Gateshead. And he wanted to go to Sri Lanka and reach out to Hindu men and women living in the plantations. But one night they'd finished a prayer meeting just outside of Jaffna, and were on their way back. The van in which they were travelling was pulled over by the Tamil Tigers, and he was shot and killed.
Amazing.
And I know two pastors who should have been with him in the van.
Yeah.
And through God's... the way God arranged their circumstances, they weren't. Otherwise, they would have died with him. Yeah. His wife came back to Australia. She'd lost her husband. Their world had come to an end. But before long, she was back in Sri Lanka. She's still there, working just outside of Colombo. Because for her and for Rohan before her, and others involved in ministry, it was faithfulness to God's call. Yeah. Even to the point of the sacrifice that you mentioned, Meg, at their ultimate sacrifice. Knowing that, the Bible says they did not love their lives even as far as death. And over the years, I've had the privilege of meeting and getting to know a number of people like Rohan who have laid down their lives on purpose. Not in a way that they sought it, but it happened, and they paid the ultimate price of losing their lives because they were faithful to God's call, and that was more important even than their comfort or their security. And the work that they've done continues to impact so many other lives.
Absolutely. Tell us about Myanmar.
So last year, I was on my way to Sri Lanka and had a change of direction because of the bombings in Sri Lanka. And through circumstances that are too long to go into here, I ended up in Myanmar, in a town called Kalemia, next to Chin State, working with a number of pastors and churches there. I took a number of days at a pastors' conference, a church planters' conference, and a number of churches there, and also down in Yangon, the capital. And I must say that it's been a long time since I've found groups of people who are so hungry, so open, so willing, just with open hearts and open minds, and really wanting to receive and be taught and trained, and come together for the purpose of church planting and evangelism in that predominantly Buddhist country. Yeah, beautiful people. Yeah, and I should have been there right now. But COVID has changed all our travel plans. Yeah. But God willing, I'll be back and be involved in teaching and helping development of their leadership.
One thing I've discovered over the years is that great opportunities come to faithful people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a classic example of that. Just being able to have an open door, because it's not just that you're in the right place at the right time. I believe God recognises the faithfulness of our hearts, and He gives opportunities to that.
And the equipping that comes with that.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So it's all very well to be equipped and not have an attitude of service.
Yep.
But being there at the time when God says, this is where I want you, this is the open door that I'm giving you, yep. That's the entry to a life that's really productive and fruitful.
Yep. We are very much a missions-focused church, John, you being our treasurer of the church, can you just off the top of your head, can you think of basically how much we have supported in terms of missions, like the mission budget for the last couple of years? Or?
Yeah, the last couple of years has been about $65,000 to $70,000. We've sort of been able to fund our missions, the missions work, mainly the Kimberley, and Sri Lanka, and also Vietnam, and also with Serge and Siobhan in now Uruguay. So they've been our main focus, but we've done a few other little ones too, like the Myanmar and other issues or other opportunities that have come up. We've actually responded to. So about 65 to 70,000 a year, and that's all come from giving by our people in church. It doesn't come from the general budget. We have offerings 4 times a year, and that's what we use to fund all our mission work.
And that's something that we as a church want to grow in. We want to enlarge that. We want to be able to support more things. I was speaking to Jack Haynes not that long ago at Imaginations Church in Penrith, and his church every year for the last 10 years has given $1 million to missions. And it's not a mega church, it's not a huge church, but that's just been their passion. And so there's more that we can do, but we don't just want to support everything. We want to be very focused as to the nations that God puts on our heart, the various missions activities and people that God puts on our heart. And so we're constantly looking at ways that we can grow and develop that. On another note, we had Serge and Siobhan Reinhardt, who are our missionaries in Buenos Aires, Argentina. They are back in Australia. Congratulations to them. They've just had baby number 2, little Talia, little sister for Isabella. So congratulations, Serge and Siobhan. But when they go back, hopefully, I mean, no one knows in this COVID-19 environment, but hopefully at the end of the year, they want to move to Uruguay. And we caught up with them. Anthony actually caught up with them recently and asked them that question, why Uruguay? And so this is what they had to say. Have a look at that now.
So guys, you've been in Argentina for the past 4 years. Why the move into Uruguay now?
Well, it's something that since day one, we felt He spoke to us about South America as a whole, and an opportunity has opened up that we're able to look at extending our work into Uruguay. So we went over, checked the place out, and we felt like God was confirming that the time is now to start expanding.
Fantastic. Well, it's almost time for us to wrap up today, but I just wanted to remind all of you watching that we serve a faithful God. And the reason we can talk about faithfulness like we have, and the faithfulness of people who have laid down their lives, is because we know that we serve a faithful God. And whenever we talk about the faithfulness of God, I can't help but think of Lamentations 3:22 and 23. It says, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They're new every morning. Great is your faithfulness, O Lord. And so that's a good challenge. That's a good encouragement for us today, that we serve a faithful God.
In a moment, the prayer requests are going to pop up on the screen. There's a particular missions focus on these ones as well. So make sure you take note of those prayer requests and pray for those things over the next couple of weeks.
Well, God bless your church, and we'll see you on Sunday for online church. Looking forward to it. God bless.